Series of live shows.
Cool.
With guests whom you all know.
We sure do.
We got all you need in the TV Co app, which is free. We're talking everyday life with BB alums, old school, new school. It's all epic fun. So let's get started, friends, because us three got a lot to discuss.
We do.
It's time to enjoy the show.
It is.
Let's see who'll be joining us.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah.
You're doing great.
Guess who's enjoying the intro?
Hooray!
It's me, and I'm sorry, Nicole, I tried for you, but we got guests. We gotta start the show. Go, Nicole, start the show. Start it now. Hello, everybody. Hi, Nicole. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. A little mad that technology is revolting, but we're here. Life is good.
Technology is the worst these days. But yes, I am so excited for this show. I am so excited for our guest today that we need to just jump right into it, Nicole.
Let's go.
I'm not going to keep you from doing your intro. You go for it, Nicole.
Okay, guys, I am so super excited. We have a phenomenal actress, director, screenwriter with us, and her bestie, just like we're besties, that's why it's Hello Friends, the incomparable, astonishing Anne Heche, and her bestie, Heather Duffy Boylston.
Hello!
Hi.
How are you,
ladies? How are you?
Well, we're great. It's a Sunday afternoon, so we're rolling a little bit slower than normal. So our witty banter might be
we'll still be witty.
Are you going to be witty?
I'll be witty too.
I'm counting on you to be witty.
Okay.
All right, as long as we don't have to be witty about baseball, because,
Oh.
I don't know about this.
We would have to be if there was a different outcome last night.
Well,
Heather is quite.
today's the game 7 of the Dodgers.
Oh,
Yes.
Are you going to be able to make it through? Are you going to be able to handle it, Heather?
Yes, we have an hour. And
Okay,
and then the final game. And if we win, we go to the World Series.
I mean, this is a big deal. I'm not much of a sports person, but I gotta say we've had some fun traipsing around to your haunts.
That is true.
Right?
Right? That must be fun.
About baseball, we can move along.
Well, it's exciting. I mean, people, World Series.
I'm a Mets fan, so I don't really know to get excited often. It's a lot of disappointment.
Well, there's been a lot of disappointment for the Dodgers too in the last couple years, I can tell you.
Yes, 100%.
So,
go ahead.
Ladies, what I do want to start with, because obviously our show is Hello Friends, Eric and I are coworkers, but also besties. So I want to start with you guys about your friendship. Where did it begin? How did it start? How did it come to be? How are you now BFFs?
Well, I love when you tell the story. Please tell the story of how we met. I love it. Like I'm looking at her like I have goo eyes. Like I don't. She is my best friend, and I think she's awfully beautiful. But you tell how we met.
We met at our tennis club in Los Angeles, at the Los Angeles Tennis Club, and I play in a competitive tennis league.
Let it be said, I had never been a member of a club before. Not that they would want to have me. This was the first time that I had ever become a member of anything like this, because my one son was 7 and I had another baby boy, and I thought, I'm lucky enough to be able to give something to my kids that I had never had given to me. That was a mark in my success as a parent and my success. So here I go, my first day.
So she's walking in to where these ladies are playing in their tennis clinic. It's incredibly serious.
Oh gosh.
Tennis.
They are kick-ass players
for no reason. Nobody's winning scholarships, prize money. It's absolutely ridiculous, but it is so real
and competitive.
It is. They take it very seriously, and you usually have to be kind of approved to come as a substitute. If you can't make it, they get somebody else to sub for you, but somebody who can play tennis so you could keep the rally going. Wow. And I see poor Anne walking up to where to be part of our clinic. And I know that somebody has just said, yeah, that'd be fun. Let's have Anne Heche come because, she's Anne Heche. How much fun would that be to play tennis with her? And I realized she's walking into this lion's den of, and my heart broke for her. She's walking up in her sweats and t-shirt.
My boyfriend's like dirty, like
I don't even think she had a tennis racket.
I didn't have a tennis racket, and I was like looking through the fence and like everybody in their Lululemons and attitude. It's just not. It's not like, oh my God, I'm going to learn how to play tennis today. It was quite the opposite. Fuck them. Do you want a cup of coffee? That's really what I heard. And it was
That's
Heather
apparently what I said.
holding up a cup of coffee and goes,
because
look.
you were literally at the gate, like looking in, like a terror. Like it was so sad. It was just like, oh my God. And so I helped acclimate her into that lion's den of middle-aged, wealthy white women.
Yeah. With the assessment, and although I am a middle-aged white woman, there was what was funny was about how she's like assesses me in like 2 minutes, one telling me not to worry about somebody, but also realizing in about 1 second that I had never played tennis before, and how was she going to handle not embarrassing me so much that she would say you don't belong here because you're eaten alive, but make the entrance for me funny and okay with all the ladies. So basically she said, have you ever held a racket? And I'm like, she goes, here, take mine. When you go in there, there's 2 lines. When the ball comes out, you try to hit it.
Oh gosh.
You won't hit it, get into the other line, try to hit it again. And then she called out onto the tennis court, ladies, don't hit the face. It's a money maker. And everybody laughed. And then after they hit me in the face immediately, she picked me up off the floor, and she's been doing it ever since. That's the story of my life.
It's such a wonderful. And how long ago was this?
So now we're back.
Do you play tennis now?
I do, but badly. Heather just won the championship.
Better than you did.
I am much better. I still get intimidated by the ladies, quite honestly, and I still have that strange feeling in my gut every time I see them. So I don't go very often. But she did just win the championship at the club, so I'm very proud of my tennis stuff.
What an accomplishment! I mean, the endorsement rolling in, and you know.
You're about to go on tour.
No, all I got was my photo on the wall that made me just look in horror at how much weight I gained during COVID. and I'm like, that picture is going to be on the wall all year long.
I know. I was so proud of her that she won. I took a picture of her the other day when I went to pick up my son, and I was like, look, and all she can do is go, oh my God, the COVID weight.
No, I didn't. I said hashtag
that is the thing about COVID. We all like pivoted to like this new lifestyle, and that's something we were talking about with you prior to, beginning, was everything now being on Skype and Zoom and getting used to ring lights and all that fun stuff.
Obviously, we're not very good at it.
Well, I
think
a lot of it's not going to go back to what it was. Anne did a movie recently, The Vanished, that's now just out on DVD.
Okay, yeah. By the way, you can see it on YouTube.
But we did an entire press junket, in a day with, dozens and dozens of outlets from the living room, rather than having to go to a hotel, fly somewhere, go to a hotel. And I just don't see that ever going back to the way it was.
It would be very difficult
because
to get
now that actors know that's possible, they're going to be like, yeah, no, we're Zooming that.
Oh no, for sure. Like we literally, she's like, hi, time to do press. And 20 minutes later, we're all over the country. And by the way, it had this, what would change it is if it didn't have the same level of success. But what you did was make the movie do better than it would have done normally.
Because you were able to do more.
You put us on more press. I mean, it was incredible. So nobody.
And you're also willing to do more press than you might be otherwise, because it's so easy.
Because you're like, sure, I'll do 5 more outlets. Like if you're going to do them in the next hour, let's do it.
Yeah. So absolutely. I do think a lot of things like that are not going to go back to what it was, and that's not necessarily that's not necessarily a bad thing. Although there are industries that lose money, but other ones that make money, because it was a company now that has this company that just does virtual press junkets. Right. It got born in COVID. A lot of things got born in COVID. That's why you agreed to do Dancing with the Stars.
Exactly.
If it wasn't,
is that a COVID decision?
It was a COVID decision.
Like, what else are we doing?
I mean, come on.
I always said we, like I did it too.
But it was kind of a joint, really, honestly, you did, with all of the work that had to be done for Dancing with the Stars. It was like they had to hire both of us.
But it was, she would go out to dance and I would be in the trailer and like waving her off. And I felt like, you know, I was like the housewife on the prairie and she was going out to battle, you know, and all I could do was sit in the trailer and drink wine and watch the feed.
So
there was
funny.
nothing I could do.
In a long dress and petticoats.
Well, why don't we talk a little bit about Dancing with the Stars then? Go ahead, Nicole. I'm going to let you ask your Dancing with the Stars question because Nicole.
Do you have crushes on some of the dancers, some of your people you're rooting for that I can give you some inside scoop?
Oh gosh, I'm of course, you know, I'm a boy band gal, so I'm rooting for AJ.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
I love all the male dancers.
What?
I love all the male dancers. I love me a Gleb, an Artem, an Alan.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're good. They're good people. They really are. That was one of the things that was really cool about that about the show. You don't get to see each other very often because of COVID and the way that productions are being done. The way that they do it is put you into a pod. Literally, you are allowed to see your dancer. You're allowed to see your hair and makeup. Heather, well, I was allowed to see Heather, and Keo was allowed to see Heather because that was our pod. And we all got COVID tested every day in order to be in that pod.
But wait, I should back up and say the reason I was in that pod is because I can say this, hence I haven't told anybody this. Anne refused to sign the contract unless I was allowed with, you know, to be in her pod. So that's how, and it was up until the last day when they're like, well, no, nobody is allowed to bring anybody. Nobody has a +1. And she's like, well, then I'm not.
Okay. Because it's one of the things that you talk about a podcast about friendship. One of the things that our podcast is about and is going to be about is that we're better together. And the fact of the matter is people put a distinguished mark on the person who is supposedly the star or celebrity. And this will get back to Dancing with the Stars. I believed I was dancing with the stars. They bring on the celebrities, but the stars are the dancers, not the people coming in. And it seems like such an odd thing that nobody pointed out. Like, no, we're the schlubs. The fact is, we don't know what the hell they're doing, and they've been stars of the show forever. But with that kind of concept, the fact of the matter is, the star goes on the show, being me, a celebrity, and the amount of work that you are in today's, and I think it is part of the COVID response and reaction and reality of what's going on. The social media has become one of the components of the business today that is not one that I'm familiar with or used to doing or really engaged in. It's been a kind of it's been a challenge for us to find a way together to make that because it should be said, Heather has a publicity firm and she represents businesses, but I became her only business after it was Dancing with the Stars, that she could focus on having to hire other people to take care of her real business because all of a sudden I was a full-time job. But that has a lot to do with the amounts of jobs that are a component of being an actress today, working in the business, because the business of my acting, which is what it used to be, where I would go onto a set and be able to go and be and do the work that the set made, that was my job. And now social media has become almost a third of the components of that job that is, it's like it's new. The younger generation is used to it. I'm used to disappearing in my work. And the fact of the matter is I never would have been able to do the job. And I knew that before they did, about why I said Heather needs to be here. It needed to be there for me to be on any level a success and being able to fulfill the responsibility that they ask people to do. And I think it's normal for younger people now to be in that, and that's probably great, but I'm not of that generation, so it's been a trick to figure out.
Which I think it's a big thing with the show. I mean, I can't say enough nice things about everybody that works on the show, what a great show it is, but it's a dancing show, but it's also, an Instagram show. It's an
right.
And there's a huge disadvantage to the West Coast and why it's an Instagram show is because the people on the West Coast are voting for who they like more, not about their dance, because it's already
the votes don't count.
You have to vote before it even airs on the West Coast. So that's a weird component of the show that
it's very true. And speaking of it being like a full-time job, like I can imagine the training you go into, like, you know, we saw you dance the cha-cha, the foxtrot, the quick step, the paso doble, which
nice. You know them better than I do.
I got it. Which one was your favorite of all of the dances that you did?
Well, the last one has obviously, the paso doble, which I call the paso doble. Is it possible for me to do? And it was
incredible.
Did that story. We knew very much what the opportunity that we were being given to talk about a time in my life that hasn't been spoken about in obviously in such a public way. How could it have been? But again, a very big part of what we were excited to be able to do with this show. And so figuring out the dance, figuring out the song was a big part of it. I think
was so
the costume, really every single person. I mean, you had a whole circus going on. There were so many different departments that you need to engage when you're doing something like that, the craft of being able to do something like that, and also not making the fact that you're going to wear the Star-Spangled Banner for equal rights on your costume. You don't want to mess that one up. The transformation of that costume was a big deal. The story was a big deal. And so I think I hold a place in my heart for that because of what we were able to accomplish and what, I mean, you really structured from the top to the bottom.
Well, to tell the story of what happened to Anne in the 90s and how she was treated back then for just being open about her sexuality. And, you know, back then it was, you were either gay or you were straight. There was nothing in between. So not only did Anne get judged harshly from people who, you know, were prejudiced against gay people, she got crap from gay people who thought that how could she be with Ellen and then be with a man, and the way that derailed her career back then was just so outrageous. And to think about it now in 2020, it just wouldn't happen. And it wouldn't happen because people like Anne had the guts to stand up and be truthful and honest. And I think that nobody ever circled back to say, I'm sorry, to say thank you. For me, I don't know if it was more important to me or to you.
I think it was more important to you. She was more nervous.
I just wanted that story.
Execution.
I just wanted that story to be told in a way that made people think, you know, on one level, look, we've come a long way. You know, there's still a lot. We still have a lot of road to travel, but look how far we've come since then. And I think there was a lot of people who maybe hadn't thought about Anne in that story since then, and they can think about it now, and they can think just personally how far they've come. I can be completely honest and say, I didn't know you back then, and I remember the story back then. And while, you know, I remember thinking it was such a big deal. Yeah, you know, like it was, wow, and now it's not even a blip on the radar.
It's crazy. And I will say thank you, Anne, because I was a mere probably 10 or 11 years old as a little gay boy, and there was no stuff on TV like that for me when I was little. So to see stories like that and to hear that made me realize in a lot of ways who I was as like a person, like, oh, this is okay. And I see like Linda Lulu over in the TV Co chat says, yes, Anne certainly helped lead the way to understanding and acceptance. So a lot of, you know, you definitely deserve credit for that. And if people aren't giving it to you, Anne, they should start giving it to you now. Her socials people love this video.
Well, that's very sweet. I think one of the things that we want to do as artists and activists, and I think that might be one of the things that is about the timing, why we're working to tell this story now, why it's important, why the story can be heard now. Sometimes I think that the time, I mean, of course, I'm learning as I go too. When you do something that has such a huge impact in the world and then nobody pays attention to it, it's like, or it was almost like being erased from the story. I was erased from the story. And that to me was I mean, however I deal with that. I've written another book about it. We'll talk about that in that. But what happened was that it became a study of my life. I did not understand, first of all, what was going on when the moment hit that I was going to lose my career if I decided to take Ellen DeGeneres to the premiere. Now, to be frank about why people would have given me that advice on a level that wasn't just pure discrimination was that I just met Ellen 4 days earlier. We were not in a loving relationship that we had hidden from the world. We literally were in the week that she was coming out. I met her the week that she was coming out on Ellen on Tuesday night. I met her on a Sunday night to give a bit of the timeline. My Volcano premiere was on Thursday night. Wednesday was my press junket. So the condensed amount of time where we had known each other was shocking that I would be able to take her as my date. And of course, as I said to them, well, but you wouldn't be telling me I would get fired if I was taking George Clooney. And that right there is the problem. Mm-hmm. So even Ellen was saying to listen to them. I don't take me. And I literally looked at her on the chair of the arm that I was sitting on and said, oh my God, you just came out last night on your show. And now you are telling me when 5 suits are standing in front of me telling me I'm going to get fired from my multi-million-dollar picture deal if I take you, and you're telling me to listen to them. That is the issue right there. Yep. There is no choice for me. I don't have, if you know me well enough, and I'm the same person I say to Heather all the time, I'm so friggin' redundant. Could we please get over my saying the same thing over and over? That is wrong. You do not tell somebody that you will give them a carrot if they march to the beat of their drum and shut their face about the truth of what they are saying, thinking, and feeling. You don't do that. The truth is not something that you can compromise on a table. And we are asked to do it all the time. We are asked to do it through our sexuality. We're asked to do it through our business. We're asked to do it as women. We're asked to do it as men. We're asked to always asking people to compromise who they are so that they satisfy what we need in order to give them what we think they want. Well, that was a big carrot. I did want that multi-million-dollar picture deal, and I wanted to star in movies with beautiful, handsome men who were talented. I wanted to work with directors and actresses who were of my ability to do the talent that I do. I work a certain way. Others work a certain way. We attract each other in that. That's how you become a person who works with Harrison Ford, because our art ability met. That right was taken away from me.
Absolutely.
It didn't work. It doesn't mean that I didn't go and do things that I had wonderful relationships and I created incredible stories and but when you craft as well as I do, and I've learned better and better, but when you craft a certain way and you get to a certain point, it's not a mistake. It's not like, ooh, I'm all of a sudden an it girl, whatever that meant, and I'm in 3 of the top movies potentially for the next year. It's because of what my talent was and and acknowledging that, by the way, being able to talk about it right now. It's taken me 20 years to be this clear about it. I deserved those opportunities. At that time, it became about fighting for the right to not ever have to make that choice and be a person who could lead, hopefully, a consciousness that would say, I hope nobody ever gets into this position again. But those are the things that were the consequences of the erasing and the consequences of what happened because nobody wanted to hear my side of the story, and nobody literally wanted to hear me talk about the right to love anymore. And they tried to shut me up as best they could. And that's wrong. That's one of our first rights in this country, to have freedom of speech.
And that's so incredible. Like, having heard your story, I'm watching Dance with the Stars. I know you from I know what you did last summer. Like, that's, I guess, showing my age, and like, that's where I was listening to your story. I'm like, oh, I know I like her. But when you shared your journey and were so open about it and the mountains you freaking moved, I was crying at my kitchen table with my sister saying, this is what we need to hear more of, how it was different. And yes, we've gotten better, but also more needs to continue to be done. And like that dance that you did your last week, the costume, the message, I felt the emotion, I felt the power, and it made me just absolutely adore and love you even more as a human being. And like, I thank you for that. You said you weren't thanked. Eric just thanked you. I'll thank you. I mean, our message is so much of kindness and acceptance and, you know, the LGBTQ community, and what you have done for them and what you continue to do for them is absolutely incredible.
Yeah. Thank you. We do it together. We do it together. And that's one of the that's one of the blessings of what it is that I mean, when Heather says she wonders if she was more nervous than I was, the amount of work that and the amount of dedication that she and I have spent getting ready for why we're doing better together as a podcast together.
Yes.
What it is that creates the gratitude, which I feel and I thank you and I hear, and I'm so appreciative that the ability to have done that and to be able to really then speak what my study has been over the last 20 years about why we have done that, what I went through, and what more we need to do. I was saying you can, it's almost like you have a pocket of time to do it because we're in another crisis right now that demands another. It's like that story can in a way be heard now because there's another revolution going on, and there's so many. I mean, forget the pandemic. It feels like there needs to be a revolution in so many different areas, from the politics to religion to country-wide relations to all education, all of the things that need a leader on their own, and we want to find them on Better Together. We want to find the people who can teach us more and share more about what they study, what we need to be able to join together to be able to create the change that needs to be created. And why Heather says, like, oh wow, it's really good to look back and go, I mean, I couldn't even imagine the lawsuit I would have on my hands if that happened today. I mean, seriously, can you imagine? And at that time, I didn't even know that was even a thing. Why would you ever think of putting money in front of somebody who's telling you can't do? I was fired. I didn't know that that was a
And by the way, the person who fired you was
gay.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was talking
for the network.
Look,
like, aren't you gay? Like, what's going on? That's not the point. People make their choices. What's your choice? But do you choose the money? Like, do you choose carrot or do you choose your truth? Excuse me.
But
in this moment in time, we need to find more people. Not only it's beautiful to remind, I'm just a part of a pack, and I'm ready to, with Heather, create more foundation of a society that is able to speak their mind, tell the truth, speak about what it is they want to do. What are the things that we don't like about it? What are the things we do like about it? And how do we make each other understand how to communicate better so that we can form groups of leadership that can ultimately create change and more love and more truth in this world? And that's what Better Together is about.
Right. So for people that might not know, so that is going to be your new podcast together, because obviously, like we said. Yes, because you guys are best friends. And now the premise of the podcast is the people that you guys have on, they're bringing their plus ones, right? So then it can be like a whole exchange, a whole best friend podcast.
A friendship.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, to be clear, it's the concept of Better Together is that behind the person that we put all the bells and whistles around, with the one with the sequin costume that turns inside out, is a force of nature that does not get recognized often. Nobody does anything alone, really. But when you are it's still hard for me to embrace the celebrity that I am in an interesting way. I'm getting better at it because I think it's about enough time, and whatever, I have a voice, so let's tell the truth about it. First of all, I wouldn't have been able to make it through the time to be recognized by Heather through friendship. I became quite isolated, to be honest. I went into my study. I started writing again. I started searching the world for what it was that my voice was and how I could manifest that in the world in a way when nobody wanted to hire me. I was struggling to put food on the table for my family. I had a new son. Nobody was hiring me. And yet I was facing the dilemma that my purpose in life was obviously to be able to stand up for equal rights. And who was I to do that? And it wasn't just because I fell in love with a woman. Why? In a way, it was the universe literally tackling me with the understanding that this is what I wanted to do in my life. And how was I going to make that happen when I was supposed to be a movie star, but then I was kicked out of the movies? So who was I? And that's why it's taken so long to do this. And if I wasn't recognized by Heather at that moment by the fence, you never know when you meet the person who's going to go, oh, we can do this. I know who you are. And even though you're dressed a little bit homeless, we may be able to do something with you because I know who you are. And when that person sees you and recognize you and you see them and you get to talking about what it is and how they see the world. And Heather is a phenomenal woman, has created a school in Los Angeles because the education system was needing some help. And so she comes along, of course, however long that took for us to share really what it was we were doing for social consciousness. And then she's like, well, you did that. And I'm like, you built a school? Like, my God, she built a school called Larchmont Charter here in Los Angeles. And so the two of us went, like, every time we were having a talk, when you're talking about social justice and change, you're talking about education, you're talking about politics, you're talking about everything. We're talking about ground up. Where do you begin? And I'm like, whoa, yes, we start with our children, and yet we need our adults to understand and recognize and pay attention to what the steps are, because if you skip a step, you can't get further. And if you don't recognize a step, the universe won't give you enough people around you to be able to make the changes necessary to make the move. And I think that's what the presence of Better Together is what we're seeking, is the partnerships that can help define the areas of change that we need to be in, and recognize the experts in them so that we can develop these different areas. Nobody's great at everything. So we want to meet the experts. We want to meet, and I think that partnership together is what we do. It's
not just having you and your bestie on. We will have somebody on that might make us all better.
That was a long explanation. I'm sorry. Sometimes I ramble.
And then,
we love it.
Then I clip notes it.
No, this
in summary.
It is perfect. That is why people are going to love to tune in. That is what they are going to love to hear. Here's, I see a lot of people, we're live everywhere on all the social medias, but over in the TV Co chat, people are saying, well, first they're saying congratulations on, I see JP from New Jersey is saying congratulations on your role in Psycho, or taking over the new role in Psycho. And go ahead. What do you want to say about that?
Psycho, you mean the Gus Van Sant remake?
I believe so. Yes, I believe that's what he's talking
about.
Yeah. So he's very excited about that. And people are saying, what tips can you give to Nicole to get cast on Dancing with the Stars? Because it's been her dream for forever.
Is it?
We can put
it in. It's been your dream. Are you a dancer?
I am not a dancer. In spirit, I believe I'm a dancer, but in execution, I am not a dancer.
That's where I think I would have lied when I went on. And I don't know. Everybody over there now. Heather, can you work some magic, baby? We'll have you on our podcast, and she'll talk to one of the executives.
Oh gosh. See, my whole thing is I'm more of a person of experiences and growth. I don't want it where it's like, oh, I'm going there to dance and, get influencers and, get followers. Mine's more so like, I see the growth process that so many of the stars go through and the realizations they come to. And like, that's what I want. I want to continue like learning and growing. And that to me is the most outstanding part of the show.
Absolutely. That's why I did it. To be an artist, I consider myself a performance artist more than I do an artist. Nobody else does, but that's just in my own head. But in order to do anything, for me, we're creatives. We got to fill our souls with something other. I'm like, You don't create from the neck up. When you go to a movie, I get to the end of the movie, I'm finished that process. I got to go out into the world. I got to go do something. I got to go watch go to art shows or travel or do something that puts my brain back in fill up and not and that's what this was, and emptying yourself of what it is that you know you're going to create next is an important part of that process, and that's what it was. Dumping anything I knew to risk learning more. And
it's
the risk is always better. It's a lot of work.
When we first started, we were like, we did not know what, like, it's real.
It is. It's 24/7, isn't it?
Now, for something like Disney Week, do they say, okay, it's Disney Week, and you say you're a huge fan of like Hercules or something? Or do they give you your Disney characters and dance?
No.
Well, there's a story.
Well, you can tell it. Well, we can tell it. We're off now.
Okay.
Oh, gosh.
You know all our secrets.
No, I mean, there was a little bit of miscommunication because we talked to somebody and they're like, oh, you know, Disney Week is just, you know, Tyra will wear some outfit and a few people, you know, they played it down. And then we were they're like, what Disney movie is your favorite? And Anne's like, I don't, you know, what, do you have photos of you at Disney? She's like, I've never been to Disneyland. I was poor, you know? So she didn't really have that, you know, and they're like, you know, and now say into the microphone, I raised my children on Disney, you know, for the promos. And she's like, no.
No, and then I didn't want that on camera. I did this. And Heather was and
there's nothing against Disney. It was just that just isn't her story. Right. How she raised her. She just didn't raise her kids on Disney. So
I won't be able to go very far with the stories behind that.
So as it turns out, you actually do have to dress like a character and dance to a song. And we were in our conversation with them trying to figure out what this whole Disney thing was. I think it was my fault. I think I said, so what is she supposed to do? Dress like Mowgli or something? You know? And they were like, I can't even remember what their answer was. Long story short, they gave her this Mowgli song that was like this silly song that you just didn't connect. Because that's the other thing, like for Anne, who's an artist, she chose all her songs, you know. I mean, they rejected a lot, and we got to the one that was finally okay that goes with the dance, because you know, it has to go with the dance. So that was the only song that we couldn't really select that meant something to her, you know. So we're like, she's like,
oh no, I don't either. I didn't even know the show.
So then she tried to find, and then all the songs were taken.
I'm like, distract them. No, she's like, I'll talk to them. I ran down to my studio, to my office, and I look. I'm like, she's talking to them about listening to some of the songs.
And they're like, but you said you loved the Jungle Book.
I'm like, I've never even heard of the Jungle Book.
I made a joke. Are you like? And by the way, isn't Jungle Book canceled too? That was a whole other thing. I thought that was, anyways.
Well, it took, the funny thing about Hercules was that I'm downstairs, she's doing bells and whistles with them, like trying to, yes, let's think about it. I come up, I'm like, Hercules has a good song. And
it is a great song.
And I like the message of the Hercules song. And Heo is the first Black Hercules. Come on. I just thought the whole
thing worked out really well in the end.
And that's what takes collaboration and patience.
It took us a minute to get there.
Yeah.
There's just one thing that I want to know about your time on Dancing with the Stars. Because like I said, Anne, I know that you are out there. I know that you are a voice of the people. You love to get to the truth. I need to know.
Yeah.
Did you find out any clues if Carol Baskin did it?
Oh, God. Well, funny, but no, nor would she ever reveal anything. She's quite a unique person to hold. I have to tell you, she, she lives, as you might imagine, in her world, and it continues into everybody else's world. She's just, she is who she is, and nobody gets near it.
I can say, because
good. Heather knows. She didn't tell me this.
I actually, and think about this for a minute. How sad is that if she actually didn't do it? Which
that is sad.
I think she was annihilated by the media. And what a great story. And meeting her, and she's so mild, like, and there's a lot more to that story. If you go to her website, she's written this long epistle, which I did after I watched the show, because I thought, like, you know, you have to be careful. And you should know that more than anybody, right? You can take something and just run with it.
Dude, I would never say anything about Carl.
So
I don't know. I don't research.
Me neither. She didn't do it.
I don't think she killed him, and I think it's really sad what has happened to her. I don't know what kind of a person she might be, you know, but the fact that she did not kill her husband, and it's sad what has happened to her and her family. When she talked about her daughter, you know, how her daughter is embarrassed, and when you just see her and talk to her, she was very shy. I can say that. She did. She kind of pretended to be on her phone the whole time in the corner. Like, I could tell she just was. She, more than anybody there, was really out of her element.
Oh, for sure.
There, and it had to be really scary for her. And you know, I have a little bit of compassion for her.
Heather could have, by the way, which is one of the things I love about Heather. And we share this, but you were such a collector. You're such a compassionate, loving person. I
think everyone's innocent on Dateline too, though.
Right? Oh God! Just blew it. See,
like, I did it. I was me, and they like confess, and I'm like, no, really?
Are you both still watching the season?
Well, that's a funny story too.
Uh-oh.
Can I say this?
Yeah.
So when Anne was going to be on Entertainment Tonight,
with Kevin Frazier,
she needed to watch the show, and she had never watched the show before.
Oh no!
She was like, I don't like, because then I was trying to show her like online. I'm like, you have to see the passage, like when other people do it. She's like, I don't copy other people. I want to do my own. And I'm just like, oh my God, but. You know,
she's like, yeah, but the positive.
So I'm watching everything and trying to like. So she watched it for the first time on 80s night and just looked at me and said, "Wow, we really dodged a bullet."
Oh boy.
Who are you rooting for of the people that are left? Like celebrity-wise, dancer-wise.
They're all awesome, but
they really are all awesome. And I don't know. I was moved. Why do I have such a tickle in my throat?
Maybe even I love Justina. Well, we both love Justina. Justina's, because you know they were voting people off like oldest to youngest is what it seemed like.
Oh, true.
And I think that anyways, that's a whole other thing. And Justina is, you know, she's killing it against those 20-year-olds.
She is. I know.
She's so fun and nice. We would go out for drinks with her afterwards, and she was a lot of fun.
In fact, we were supposed to do that this week. Of course we the incredible thing that happened when I was on Entertainment Tonight and we guest hosted, and everything brings gifts, and I want to congratulate you too, Nicole, on being able to say that you want to keep pushing yourself. I don't find that I meet a lot of people who have that as their philosophy in growing in life. Like, you know what? I got to do things that put me out of my comfort zone in order to find what it is. By the way, it clarifies a lot of stuff. Like right now, I know that I am not a dancer. Now,
you are a dancer.
I think you are, and I would say you very much are.
I'm a different. What?
You're a little more freestyle.
I'm a little more freestyle, and yet doing that and pushing that is a necessity. One, it erases like, hey, can I do this? And yes, I know I can do it, and now I know I can learn dances. But by doing it, you get to clarify more about yourself, and also be able to let go of some of those things that are kind of hanging around, like other question marks. You get rid of question marks because you go and do something, and you get to experience in that and say it's an accomplishment, and then move on and be better. It helps you become more of a specific artist by making yourself one that doesn't know the art that they're doing. And so that's cool that you're doing that. And I forget why I said that.
Well, I'll say this, Anne, you know where we're all great dancers is over on TikTok. So if you don't have a TikTok, you need to get one.
Master TikTok yet?
No,
I gotta do it.
You don't have to. Nicole and I are not
Are you
great
dancers
either.
on TikTok?
Oh, Nicole and I just did a whole twerking video yesterday. Neither of us know how
Really?
to twerk. You just go for it, Ann, and it's
Gotta
fun.
sell it.
She's got to sell it.
Well, maybe
Confidence is key.
I'm gonna put my dancing shoes
Mm-hmm.
on hold for a little minute while we do our. I'm gonna start trying to hone my skills of podcasting.
Well, I can
Yes.
do the Irish dance.
And
I
you can
haven't
do
done
the Irish step dance. We might need to do that on TikTok. If that's one of the things about podcasts, we have to learn from our podcast leaders. Other
Yep.
things we're supposed to do. So maybe we
What-
have to get into TikTok for podcasts.
Yes.
You
yes,
do.
TikTok is important to get the crowds.
It
you
is.
know?
You got to
They
bring
see
the
you,
crowd.
they see you dancing, being awesome, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna listen to them.
Or you can
Oh,
do little
wow.
snippets
Okay.
of your podcast to entice people in. But speaking of your podcast, Top Gun Phantom over in chat said, who is your dream guest to be on your podcast?
Ooh.
Dolly Parton.
Oh, yes. Dad's a huge fan.
Too.
That will never happen, but I'm just saying that's my
It might happen.
But who would her plus one be?
Us.
What? You guys. Hello.
No, that is great. I think you could totally get Dolly Parton. Why do you think you couldn't get Dolly
Yes.
Parton?
No.
Oh, she doesn't have her performance ego yet. See, Heather is not used to being in front of camera. And so she's getting all used to it. It's been an incredible process this year because I'll do photo shoots with her. And make her go in front of camera. And
She's
she's
like,
gotten so much better.
Put your chin down. Make your eyes bold. I'm like, oh, Jesus. Like, and you should see the outtakes. I'm like,
And now we're doing like photo work for our they need pictures of us. And she has become such an immediate diva.
that is
She's
such
like,
BS.
no, you're like, look at how I look. It's an incredible thing when a person is so good at telling another person, like, don't worry about that, do this, who cares about your hair, blah, blah, blah. And then they see themselves, but it's a transition in a woman's life, obviously, to go from behind the camera.
What does that have to do with me?
I
wanting
don't-
Dolly Parton.
That you don't know your star power yet. And you don't know.
Oh,
how
that
you
Dolly
can-
Parton would be like, oh, please,
Well,
Heather.
Well, when you become.
What's her last name? Please let me.
No,
come
I was
on.
thinking she'd
I
come on
actually-
for me.
I actually follow
I
her
would think
dog
she
on
might.
Instagram. She has a dog like Boba.
Here's the thing. You will be surprised. I mean, you could get anybody for your podcast. I think that you both will want. People love, people love you. They know you. You have Dancing with the Stars now. That is obviously popular. So yeah, but people still love it. And I have to say, I'm kind of like you, Heather, in I am here 40. I just turned 40, and then I have to do everything with Nicole, who's like 25. And before this, I never cared what I look like until they keep putting me in like photos next to Nicole. But is there a filter? Is there like a slimming feature? Is there like I hear you?
I don't care till I see it, and then I'm like,
No.
oh wait,
Yeah, right.
Mhm. It is.
But it's also been fun because I think it brings out, and again, it's like it's brought out some really fun, creative outlets. Right? That's why I was saying TikTok. Maybe we gotta check it out because all of a sudden we're doing funny videos. We're you look at subject matter a little bit differently. I mean, for this generation, you also have to look at how quickly you can put something into a little video that makes people laugh or makes some
That's what it is.
It's a fun way for friendship to grow too. You're like, wow,
it is.
Thought bubble.
social media.
When you're watching Dancing with the Stars and the theme of the week is like 80s, you upload a clip of yourself, dressed up in 80s gear or dancing to an 80s song. You two like dancing or singing or whatever.
Yeah.
Boom! It goes with the theme of the week. People are going to want to see it.
Maybe we'll have to wait till next year. I hope our podcast lasts. We'll have to wait till next year's 80s night.
I don't know.
And by the way, if we get to next year Disney night, you're wearing that damn animal costume with me. We're gonna be Simba and somebody else for Disney night.
Well, I have
one
Just on our
year
own.
away.
Yeah.
exactly. I have another great. I mean, you have so many questions from social media, but you got this one a lot, and it is and you have starred in some very memorable films. Is there one that you enjoy rewatching because of how much you loved the movie?
Oh, gross.
She hasn't watched any of these.
I can't rewatch
There you
movies
go.
either. No.
Listen,
Okay.
Here's the thing.
Mhm.
When this is part of my problem with social media, or my resistance to social media. I am a person who goes into character and gives that character to cameras. I am not a person who, I've never had a full length mirror.
Which is so annoying because I'm here a lot. I'm like standing on the couch and
it's not what I'm not used to being my own viewer. And without trying to judge it, I find it to be an incredibly self-indulgent art form. I am trying to make it an art form that I embrace, but part of my whole fun in the world is the collaboration of what it is to bring together story, bring together all the elements of this immediate form of for me, what my privilege is on this planet is to be an artist, and I make it with others, and I mean, I do my drawings for myself, but to have my face and my interaction with that and the pictures of it is a redundant idea for me, and it's hard for me to continue every day thinking that when I wake up after doing even my art, my movies, I would never go back and watch my movie. I lived through it on the day. My God, why would I want to go back and look at it? And
I tell her if it's good or not. I'm like, oh, that was.
She tells me it's my Instagram's good, and by the way, it wasn't. So she took over.
But I think the question was fun. Like, which one was like fun? Like, which one did you have like just forget the art and all that?
No. But you know what the funnest thing for me now is being able when people show clips or something of my movies, and I'm like, oh my God, that was so much fun.
But we don't have one that like shooting it.
Well,
like
Harrison, you cannot. There's a fantasy world that happened around Harrison Ford and me doing.
Where did you shoot that?
In Kauai.
Oh, well, that'll do it.
And it was also one of the last movies that I did. It was the last big movie I did, but it was also so magical what happened around that time, and so I was living in such a strange bubble. I was with Ellen, and people were saying that I was pregnant, and on the news, and Ellen and I were having a baby, but it was like literally now a month later, and Ivan Reitman, the director of the movie, was so concerned that I was going to ruin his romantic comedy because I was now gay, that they tried to put extensions in my hair. And it was glue, and we're in Hawaii, and all of the glue was like melting on my head because he was trying to make me look more feminine. And I'm like, and we're climbing. It's like this adventure.
So did they have to cut all those scenes?
No. I took them out. I was like, I'm not. What can you do? They wouldn't let. I mean, this tells you a moment in that time too. They wouldn't let. I remember hearing a cut yelled from a scene that we were shooting when the other thing is the reason I don't watch a lot is because I remember everything. So to be reminded again, it's like I can remember every detail of the movie. So it's when David Schwimmer and I are checking into the hotel, and we're walking along the sidewalk or whatever, and there were two girls walking behind us. And I hear cut, and out come the producers, and out come Ivan, and they go, "This is not a lesbian movie. Get those two girls out from behind their background."
What?
Wow.
And that's because two girls were walking together. And I've never told that story before. That was the moment in time and I was the representative of it. Like I had never been with another woman before, but what was also dawning on me was how it had permeated society that two girls could ever have sex.
Yeah.
And the anger, and the fear, and by the way,
and they were just walking.
They were just walking. They were extras.
Oh Jesus!
Wow.
And this is not a lesbian movie. I'll never forget it. And how does change happen? Because you put yourself in front of that and you go, holy fuck. If that's what's going on right now, we need a lot more help than me just saying I'm in love with a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And that has become the mission of my life, to figure out how to help that scenario where we look at others and have the absolute interest in fear over love, and then we express it through judgment and hatred. I don't like that.
So she doesn't watch her movies.
So no, I haven't seen 6 Days, 7 Nights again, but you know what? Alan told me it was his favorite movie, and I think I want to watch it with him.
That Cedar Rapids is good too. You should see that.
Oh, that was a fun movie. With Ed. Oh, Ed Helms.
Yeah.
Well,
are there any other questions? I like hearing her questions.
Oh, do you? Well, we know that, I don't know if you guys have more time. You have a million questions we could fire at you, but I know that you also don't have a lot of time left. Do you want me to?
Well, do you want to know what I'm doing? I'm going to record my book. I'm going to record Call Me Crazy right now so that we can have, so that people can know that I have a book.
Well, she wrote a book. It's an amazing, it's called Call Me Crazy. And she wrote it, how many years? It was released, 2 days before 9/11?
4 days before 9/11. So I was number 4 on the bestseller, and then 9/11 came and my book got buried. So we are opening it from its treasures, and it's a book about my life, but overcoming sexual abuse.
Fascinating. You have no, I mean, we need 4 hours to unpack what's in that book, but it's I read it, and I'd known you for so long, and I was like, I better read your book. I read the book, and there's only one thing I didn't know about you, and that was that you dated Lindsay Buckingham. I knew everything else.
Really? Now,
I don't know that either.
Are you saying that so you're recording the audio for it? So you're going to make...
Because now you can watch DVD of it, but back then there was no such thing as Audible.
So it really is a book that hasn't been out. I mean, that's what happened, and of course happened to every single book that came out that week, because then it became, of course, as necessary. People were reading about terrorism, and that took over all the bestseller slots and everything else, and everybody's consciousness at the time, other than who you could make fun of and have it as a butt of your joke if you were a late night stand-up host, which I became. I became the girl that they called crazy. And when, I joke, like, if I had known everybody would do what I said, I would have called my book Call Me Sane. And unfortunately, that message didn't get out. And it again went along with the other story of my life, where I was literally buried, again, erased from what it was that I was doing. And that took another knock for me, because it was misperceived. It was even worse. I had gotten blacklisted from Hollywood, and then my book got buried in the ashes of 9/11. And so the story of what it was, why I stood up for Ellen, why I had such a conviction about it, why after 4 days of meeting her, I would say, I have no choice in this. I must stand up and say what is right here, because it has been the truth of my life. It started way before I was in love with Ellen DeGeneres, and started when I was a small girl who understands that I was being lied to about what the truth of life was about and what love was about, and started at a very young age. And that's what Call Me Crazy is about. And so we're having it's gonna have its own burial.
Yes.
Well, we are showing it right here, and of course we will put the links to all of your stuff below this video, wherever any of you guys are watching it, Facebook, YouTube, anywhere. Make sure that you follow here and check out the links below. But I have to say, I love this especially, Anne, because as anybody who's been listening to my show that I've been doing for years before we started doing Hello Friends, they know what I always say is, I don't read, I'm read to. So
no, I think a lot of people do it. I think that's great. And the book is not a long book, and I hope everyone understands. I have a sense of humor. I have a perspective on life that comes from a survivor, but also a person who has and shares a lot of joy with people being able to overcome what's difficult for them. So my book is fun to read. It's some tough parts,
like a day or two,
but I think it will be fun, and especially now for me to read it, and for me to read it to people now with the distance from it, and I think there's a new curiosity about what makes somebody stand up like I did. For now that this story is out, and wait, that's not the easiest thing to do. That's not the choice that everybody would necessarily have made. Where does that come from? Because the choices that we make that are that distinguished, especially when they become that life-changing for themselves and the world, how is that birthed in somebody, the ability to pay no attention to the true punishment, that's going to happen to you? Why do you do that? And I think it's an interesting thing to be able to know those answers.
And it's the perfect time to do it. You know, you were on Dancing with the Stars and shared your message with even so many new fans, and now your audiobook comes out, so they get to hear your journey more. I know I would love to listen to it. And like, I know you guys do have to go because you have your baseball game. Like I said, the Mets suck, so we can't root for them. But I wish your Dodgers the best of luck. But just in general, I know I speak on behalf of Eric and myself, that we thank you guys for coming on the show and for just sharing your message and your journey and your truth, and for paving the way for so many amazing human beings. And you're continuing to do that. And like I said, watching you on Dancing with the Stars, I just developed this love for you because you resonated with me, and I am extremely appreciative for it.
Oh, that means the world to me. Thank you. It's so lovely to be on your guys' podcast. What a treat. And I have to toast, this is our announcement of Better Together and the first podcast we have done together.
Yay!
So we have to thank you guys for that, and giving us the chance to be able to share our new adventure with you. And we can't wait to have you on our podcast.
Absolutely.
Yes, we would love it. Is there some place? Well, number one, is there any final thought that you want to share with your fans? People are listening to this podcast, and where would you like people to follow you on social media? I know you might not love it, but is there any place you want people to be directed?
Heche, I'm pretty simple
on Instagram.
I think what we would like to say is that we are in our hearts grateful when people are reaching out to others about kindness and love and creating community for a better society, and we want to help that and help train that. So we're appreciative that you have us here to help open the channel to share our voices.
And I want to thank everybody for all the support that Anne has gotten after sharing her story.
That's nice.
It was really meaningful to have the support, the overwhelming support that everybody has given to her now is something that I know means a lot to her.
And you, it's funny. It means you, and it's true. You've been waiting.
It was a wrong that needed to be righted, and I feel like this was a step in doing that, and that makes me happy.
Yes,
and we're appreciative.
Well, I see nothing but love for the both of you in our TV code chat and across social medias. So I think you got a lot of new listeners. People will be listening to this podcast back.
And we're already up. You can subscribe already.
Better Together. I think we'll be up very soon.
That's what
you can subscribe now, right?
Subscribe now.
I don't even know what that word means.
We did reject the artwork, so that will be changing. But you can subscribe now.
Okay, well, that's what I was going to say. We will have the link to the podcast in the description of this podcast that you're listening to, or if you're watching on Twitch or YouTube or anywhere you guys are watching, the links will be in the description below. We thank you both so much for taking time.
Thank you so much.
Come in and spend your Sunday with us. We hope you guys have a great weekend.
Thank you. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
You too. Love you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.